It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, my colleague, just back from Rogue One. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Right. I'm training to be an accountant. I'm doing my school's accounting for free while I study. I get offered a chance to be a mega deal to work for one of the big accounting firms, but it means I miss the office Christmas party. Do I take the job?
Of course you do.
Yeah. That's why these running backs are not playing in ball games, because they've played their last game for free. Just thought I'd get that out the way.
Well, it's a friendly at best. It's not like they're playing in the semi-final, so it's not even a story for me. They
have nothing to gain, and ask Jalen Smith, ask Marcus Lattimore, so much to lose.
Absolutely done. Absolutely.
And Rogue One was excellent.
Rogue One was excellent. Back in the room. Apologies for last week. Scheduling and illness throughout the Dutton household, and then me being out meant that no podcast last week, which is ironic, really, as in the Mainz team of the week, I won 3 heads-to-heads and got $5 on a featured competition.
In a peek behind the curtain, the advice that I had prepared to dispel would have done no one any good at all.
That's
last week was a catastrophic week for the Stars, should we say?
It was awful when you looked at the people who were actually good and you didn't know any of them. It was one of those ideas, you know what I mean? But this week, Dutton, week 16, serious business end. We're going to give you our hot takes. Then we're going to go through three games. Dutton's fantasy loser, fantasy darling, and then our teams of the week. Dutton, let's just get straight on with it and let's look at our hot takes. So when I thought about this hot take, I thought it was hot take, and now I've looked at it again, and I'm not sure it's that hot. And that is that the Lions don't make the playoffs. Chilly. The Lions don't make the playoffs. They've got to play the Cowboys, and then the Packers. Where the Packers have got to play the Vikings and the Lions. It definitely looks easier for Green Bay, especially the way they played in recent weeks.
Now, I was listening to Bleeding Green Radio, which is an Eagles podcast, but they went outside their comfort zone and they were talking about coaches who will be fired. And there's not that many, there's a few obvious ones. There's a couple who've already gone. And they said there's always one surprise. If the Lions don't make the playoffs, is Caldwell that surprise?
That would suggest that you would promote Jim Bob Cooter, right? Which you'd think is a good idea, but I'm not sure why you would want to do that. When Bob Cooter's doing such a good job with Matthew Stafford, you're actually moving him further away from Matthew Stafford, not closer to him. Yeah,
this is the thing. This is the argument that people have been saying about bringing in an offensive mind to work with Blake Bortles. No. Bring in the best CEO and get him to hire a damn good quarterback coach and make him the offensive coordinator. Someone like John Filippo for the Eagles, who's done work. He's worked with Derek Carr. He's worked with a few people, including Carson Wentz, and Wentz, as I say, has his detractors, but ultimately when he's throwing to traffic cones and Belisha beacons, he's doing the best he can.
Absolutely done. Absolutely. What's your first hot take, Done?
T.Y. Hilton will be the highest scoring wide receiver in fantasy football this week. He has 25 receptions for 20 or more yards this season, and the Raiders have allowed the most receptions of 20 or more yards this season.
This fills me with partial...
Go long, go early, go often.
This fills me with partial joy, Dutton, as we may mention T.Y. Hilton later in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Dutton, it's not a hot take, but it's something that I'm looking forward to, and that's Raiders at Pats in the snow.
Now, I wrote an article last week, I compiled an article for NFL Girl UK where I asked many of our friends who've appeared on the pod what NFL Santa could bring them this year. And Matt Money Smith, the great Matt Money Smith, he said he wanted a repeat of that game in the snow because he's a nostalgia buff.
He's also got the greatest voice in the history of the world.
Oh, yeah. I'd say if he could do voiceovers for everything, that'd be cool.
The fatal issue is I'm not sure that Derek Carr can throw in the cold, so it may not be a very enticing game. However, it will be nice because, I'm sure no one's seen the tuck rule game enough recently.
What's the tuck rule game?
Exactly, Don. Exactly. What's your next hot take?
Old Man Witten will be a top 12/tight end 1 this week. As the Lions lock horns with the Dallas Cowboys. Witten, I think he had 10 catches last week for about 3 foot 6 inches. But I think that he will figure prominently this week and may well, just whisper it, may well actually get his arse in the end zone.
That would be nice, Dutton. Although only for Packers fans, not for you or me. My hot take is Dutton. The NFL and all American sports love an award, but they've got an award wrong. They need to bin off most valuable player because no one actually knows what it means.
How do you equate value? What does value mean?
Do you know what it should be? It should be Player of the Year, and the Player of the Year this year is David Johnson, running back at the Arizona Cardinals. However, because his team aren't very good, he won't win because he hasn't added value to his team. I'm pretty sure he's had 100 yards a game, so he's the best player.
Back in 2006, the first year that Drew Brees threw for 5,000 yards, I think the Saints finished 7-9 or 6-10. Now, arguably, for quarterbacks throwing for 5,000 yards, he's probably one of the best at his position. Granted, he gets a lot of opportunity, but they were crap, so he automatically doesn't get the recognition. The idea of valuable, well, I think it's ideally the most valuable player should be awarded to a player who hasn't played a snap, has been injured and sorely missed. So you can argue the most valuable, because this was in 2011, the most valuable player was Peyton Manning. Didn't play a snap. And the Colts went to 2-14. So this year you could say, is it Keenan Allen? Is it J.J. Watt? Is it Adrian Peterson? But, the idea of valuable to someone because they are there producing, it muddies the waters. Player of the Year, because we have Player of the Year, we have Football of the Year as well. It's 2 different awards. One's awarded by the sports writers, one's the players' vote. Well, that's fine because, have a player's player and have the Associated Press Player of the Year. That's fine. We've sorted it. Now sort out the cash rule, NFL. We've handled this for you.
Exactly done. Final hot take from yourself.
Phil Rivers will throw for at least 3 touchdowns this week, and they will all go to tight ends.
Like it. So are you saying Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates, or both, or just one?
Phil Rivers will throw for at least 3 touchdowns this week.
Okay.
All to tight ends.
Keep that vague so you can have. I called this one right, regardless of which one catches it. I like it, don't I like it. San Diego Chargers are playing the Browns in Cleveland. This is like, I think this is the apocalypse, because San Diego have found, literally in the last 2 seasons, 1 billion ways to lose, and the Browns can't win. So, how does Phillip Rivers attempt to hand this to the Cleveland Browns, and how do the Cleveland Browns drop it and pass it back to them?
We've said this quite a few times this season. This is the ultimate case of the movable force meeting the resistible object.
It's just ridiculous.
This is a team who can't win and a team who loves to not win in bizarre ways. Who knows?
I don't know, but it may be sneaky fun in a red zone kind of way. I don't have to watch it.
Scott Hansen will love it. Scott Hansen will love it.
Yeah. Last hot take from me, done. The AFC South has been garbage, but is actually exciting now. Even like not in a, oh look at that tyre fire, isn't it interesting? The teams are actually playing reasonably well. Reasonably. Tennessee beat Kansas City in Kansas City.
Kansas City beat Kansas City.
Well,
Andy Reid pulled the rug out from under his own team.
That was it. I think. Okay, if we go on that, then that is why people don't like Andy Reid as a head coach. Games like that are why people are like, Andy Reid isn't very good at his job.
Yeah. If it was a cricket analogy, that's, you're 1-0 up with 1 test to play, you bat for 4 days, but all of a sudden you bat for 4 days, but you've only made 250. He's not aggressive enough before he pulls down the shutters. But the Titans lost, didn't win that game. The Chiefs lost it. The Texans are awful. The Colts are. You can't even say flat track bullies because there's no way they should have handed Minnesota Vikings the beating they did. The Jaguars, right? Can we make this pact now? Going forward, the Jaguars are going 0-16 in every prediction we make from now on until they show otherwise. They're a tire fire. They're going 0-16. That's what I will say next year.
And if we look at on the 5th of September 2016, when I wrote the rundown for Waxing Lyrical predictions in week 1, my prediction for Coach of the Year was Gus Bradley. Congratulations. I'm big enough to admit it, but congratulations.
Can you imagine being on the flight having just been fired?
Yeah, but,
with the players? And...
No, but how do you... The issue is, like, if I'm Jacksonville, I just buy him a ticket and say don't get on the flight because it's weird.
Yeah.
Because how do you slag off the sack coach if he's still on the flight?
Yeah. Or just say, Gus, when we get back to Jacksonville, can we have 5 minutes, please? Because then at least he knows. But not everyone on the friggin' flight knows.
Yeah, true.
You know, so when the captain comes on to do his announcement and says, hello, this is your captain speaking, the only one still in charge on this flight. Things like that, you know what I mean? It's a situation that could have been avoided.
Really? And they don't, but this is the reason that Doug Marrone didn't take that contract in Buffalo for this exact moment.
Oh, yeah. He saw his future. He'd just taken a Kyle Orton-led team to the brink of the playoffs and then went, you know what, I really want 2 years off so I can coach their Blake Bortles, who's broken down. Yeah, that's destiny.
Exactly. Well, they're the hot takes. Let's get straight on with it, with the games of the week.
The games of the week.
Touchdown, 85 yards! He's going to score! He's going to score! Touchdown!
First game, Dutton, is a big game. But what we thought at the start of the season would have been an even bigger game, and that's Cardinals at Seahawks. And the first question is...
We thought Act 2 of 3, maybe?
We've talked about David Johnson already. And my question is, does the 100 yards from scrimmage record continue this week against a tough Seattle defence who will do everything to stop him?
In a quite famous scene from a very, very poor film, Neo is surrounded by thousands of Agent Smiths, and in the rain says, it ends tonight. That's what it is with David Johnson. The streak will come to an end. He'll still score a touchdown, I think. But he had 113 yards rushing against the Seahawks the last time he played them. It was his third lowest yards per carry output of the game. They don't let running backs play in the receiving game, so he's going to have to get everything on the ground. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think the streak does end.
Although everyone was praising the Cardinals and thinking they were going to be the Legion of Boom, Part 2, they've really struggled this year, especially against wide receivers. Is this a big day for Seattle's wide receivers?
It's a big day for whichever of those receivers doesn't get Patrick Peterson, because he's still very, very good. Now, the chances are Peterson doesn't play in the slot very often, so that means that of the wide receivers, Tyler Lockett has come back into favour, as it were. He was very, very quiet at the start of the season, but he has been much more featured of late. But he's going to play outside. Doug Baldwin is going to play in the slot. We know that Doug Baldwin is, Russell Wilson's binky. The Cardinals do not let tight ends play, so you can write Jimmy Graham out of this one. It's going to be, they're going to try and get Rawls involved, but you can't really run on the Cardinals, so it's going to have to be Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, and stout defence, because we know that the Cardinals can be quite profligate and will turn the ball over, but they haven't got any wide receivers themselves. So I think it's a big day for Doug Baldwin, but a quiet return to normalcy for Tyler Lockett.
Sort of final question, which isn't fancy related, but I'm just, how confident are we in the Seahawks come January? 3 weeks ago, maybe, I think everyone was like, oh, this is a juggernaut, and they've kind of hit a bit of a roadblock.
Well, as I said on the Fantasy Darlings, they're a bit like Katy Perry, in that they're hot, then they're cold. They're also big up top.
You're here all week trying to feel.
Yeah. But we know that when they get to January, they know how to win. They know how to win when they're not playing well. We saw that with Minnesota last season. They started poorly against the Panthers, but they didn't get beat by Carolina. They just ran out of time. So if they get into the playoffs, I said at the start of the season they were going to the Super Bowl and we're going to get the revenge. I don't know if it's going to be like that, but they've got as good a chance as anyone if they once they get into the playoffs, which they are in, of course.
Cardinals at Seahawks, Dutton over-unders 43.
I'm going to take the Seahawks and just over.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Seahawks as well. I'm going to take the under, but not in the 6-all under, but more like a 17-10 under. Next game, Dutton. Ravens at Steelers. And I suppose the major question is, the Ravens are the best team against running backs in the league, and the Steelers have Le'Veon Bell. So the question is, will he score any fancy points this week?
Well, 2 weeks ago, we said that the Ravens have shut down every running back. You can't run on the Ravens. The last 2 games, they've allowed 95 rushing yards and 169 to the hapless Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Ryan Matthews, good soldier, very, very dependable when he's not fumbling the ball, which is a bit too often for my taste. Le'Veon Bell on the Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, much better than the Eagles. The Steelers have basically said the last few weeks, it's Le'Veon Bell until we go down. Antonio Brown had 3 catches last week. That's his lowest output in a game quarterback by Ben Roethlisberger since 2012. Le'Veon Bell has 50 rushing and 50 receiving yards in 7 straight games. The last running back to do that was way back in 2006. Can you name him?
Because you know it.
No, you're wrong.
It's not Brian Westbrook.
It's not LaDainian Tomlinson.
Is it Brian Westbrook?
No.
Who is it then?
Steven Jackson.
Never struck you as a pass catcher, did he? But
no.
Yeah, I guess he
was. Le'Veon Bell is a cheat code. And plus, in our league of record, he's on my team in the title game. So the power of positive thinking. Absolutely. I am one with the force. The force is with me.
I haven't watched. No, not yet. I'm watching it on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, that's a you problem.
That is a me problem. I suppose that the opposite side of the question is: can any Ravens players score any fancy points this week?
It'll be tough. I mean, the best way to beat the Steelers, as we know, is on the ground. But the Ravens don't run the ball, despite the fact they lost an offensive coordinator because he didn't run the ball. Now, you'd then think the incoming offensive coordinator would then probably skewer the other way and run the ball almost to a fault. Marty Morimi is an idiot. He's not a very good offensive coordinator, especially when he's calling the plays. And, I mean, if your head coach comes out and says, I should have vetoed that play call, yeah, you done messed up, son. Down in the red zone, you've just you've run the pants out of the Eagles. So what do? Oh, I'm going to dial up a pass. Why? What are you doing? I'm baffled at who runs it any less. They run the ball the second fewest of any team in the league. They average less than 70 rushing yards per game on the road. It would be okay if they stuck to one running back. But they go, it's your week, it's his week, it's your week, it's his week, between Terrence West and Kenneth Dixon. Kenneth Dixon has some PPR value, as Terrence West is not that much of a pass catcher, but he's not going to do that much damage because they're just dink and dunk. It's not like they use the running back as a big play threat in the receiving game. Dennis Pitter, no, not really. I think it's Pitter against Ryan Shazier. That's a matchup not designed to help the Ravens. And the Steelers have only allowed 8 wide receiver receiving touchdowns. So Mike Wallace, Steve Smith, Bashard Perryman. No, this is not stacking up to be a high-scoring fantasy effort for any Baltimore Ravens player. Any Baltimore Ravens player. Leading on to your next question.
It's the only fantasy player that you should have in Baltimore Ravens is Justin Tucker, and he's been unbelievable this year. Let's be brutally honest. I mean, I think he kicked for about 1.5 miles against Philadelphia last week. It calls into question how many idiots / fantasy hipsters will try and pick Justin Tucker next season in their fantasy drafts. Some
heroes will try and take him before the 10th round. But ultimately, he's a kicker. If you can have a week-in, week-out kicker who's good for 6-7 points, that's great. You can get them in the 14th, 15th round, or don't draft one at all. You can pick one up before week one starts. You don't chase last week's fancy points. You don't chase last season's fancy points, especially not with a kicker. If you get rid of kickers and have an extra flex spot, I'd be well in favour of that. In fact, get rid of the tight end, we'll have 2 more flex spots.
I had no arguments from me to speak to the owner of the League of Record,
which is me.
So that means that this is great. This is great news. I'm glad to see that transfer is finally taking place.
In one sense, I own it.
Okay, thank you. Ravens at Steelers, Dutton. Over-unders 44.5.
Steelers in the over. Most of them from the Steelers.
I'm going to take Steelers and the over, and this puts a death knell in the Ravens, I guess, and gives the Steelers the AFC North. Final game we're going to look at, Dutton, is Broncos at Chiefs. And I suppose the question is it worth putting any faith in the Chiefs' passing game against this defence?
The way to beat the Broncos, or beat them, certainly put a dent in them, is through the middle. So your passing game, you're going to need your running backs and you're going to need your tight end. So Travis Kelce is automatically someone you trust. It would be nice if the Chiefs looked for him in the red zone.
He's the big guy in the red top, right?
How many red zone targets has he had in his last 10 games?
Not enough. It's standard Andy Reid infuriation of why do you never give your best player the ball 1,000,000 times?
2.
Oh my God, Andy! For the love of
in the
God,
last
who's he throwing
10
it to?
Games.
Who's he throwing it to? Midgets? Because everybody else is like under 5'8".
Yeah, Spencer Ware is, especially in PPR formats, he had a better game run the ball against the Titans than most expected, but he's not had 100 yards rushing game since I think it was week 7. But they're going to pass the ball. They're going to have to quick passes get out of Alex Smith's hands. So Spencer Ware has some value. But the wide receivers, Jeremy Maclin, no. Tyreek Hill, again, classic Andy Reid. He had a 65-yard run. He had 2 targets in the passing game and didn't touch the ball again.
No, Andy, no. If we move over to the Broncos, Dutton, the Chiefs are not very good against wide receivers, but the Broncos have really struggled with the passing game. Can the wide receivers get open and score points?
Well, it's one of those, everyone goes on, what a great shutdown corner Marcus Peters is. Well, he's not a shutdown corner, he's a ball hawk. If you throw his way, there's a good chance he's going to intercept you. What that means is the fella at the other side is going to get absolutely pounded. Now, that's where Emmanuel Sanders has been lining up on the left side, as it were. Sanders, Demaryius Thomas is a better wide receiver, I think, when you break it down. But the high volume, low production that he has given us this season with a variety of crap at quarterback, although Trevor Siemian is playing well as more of a passing quarterback rather than a game manager of league, Emmanuel Sanders feeds on scraps and somehow produces a palatable meal. So of the two, I would trust Sanders, but I'm not trusting either of them to be wide receiver ones this week. I think they'll be middling wide receiver options at best.
Must-win game for the Broncos, Dutton. Is it a sneaky must-win game for the Chiefs as well?
Well, the Chiefs, you've shown in the past that the Chiefs backed into the playoffs in I think it was 2013, was it? Where they started off 9-0.
Yeah.
If they go into the playoffs cold, they go home from the playoffs very early. If a win here is a statement, I mean, everyone said last week, when the Broncos lost to the Patriots, that it was a statement win for the Patriots. It was. It's a good chance for the Chiefs to make a similar statement. And given that the Broncos are going to have to play exceptional on defense because they haven't got the offense, I think the Chiefs have got just enough. So I will take Big Red to continue frustrating us into the postseason.
As we speak right now, Kansas City will be going to Houston. It's a must-win because you want to play the winner of the AFC South. You don't want to be playing the winner of the AFC North in Pittsburgh. You don't want to be doing that. No. You have to be the 5 seed, not the 6 seed.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've already given us your pick, Dutton, but it's Broncos at Chiefs and the over-under's 37.5. That's a massively low number. It's probably the lowest we've done all year.
Yeah, it's the Chiefs and it will be under.
I'm going to take the Chiefs in the under as well. I don't think I don't think that there's going to be many points scored in this. Probably not many fancy players will be picked for these games, although I have picked one later on. Dutton, let's do this. Let's get on with your fancy darling, please.
Hello, darling.
So before we do that, obviously Dutton is now international superstar, radio personality. Please listen to him on the NFL show on TalkSport, where he probably talks about the fancy darling. He obviously does it for Gridiron show as well. Dutton, for the people who listen to this show, who's the fancy darling?
Well, since 2010, only one tight end has had at least 30 receptions and 7 touchdowns in his rookie season. That's Hunter Henry. The previous one to do it was Rob Gronkowski. He's quite good, apparently, when he's healthy. Hunter Henry, he hasn't had more than 2 receptions in a game since week 6, but in 4 of his last 5 games, he scored a touchdown. The Cleveland Browns bleed touchdowns to tight ends, so even though their run defense is awful and they may get run all over, and there's very few chances to throw, the San Diego Chargers do like to throw in the red zone. So Antonio Gates comes into play, but Hunter Henry has shown he's better with smaller volume and smaller opportunity over the last few weeks than Antonio Gates has been. So I like Hunter Henry this week.
So Dutton, that was the fantasy darling. Let's have your fancy loser.
There are 2 top-tier tight ends in the league this season, and in the last 2 games between them, they have 4 catches for 22 yards. One of them is Jordan Reed, the other one is Jimmy Graham. Now, Jordan Reed is, I think he's planning to fight Anthony Joshua, so we'll forget about him. The real loser this week is going to be Jimmy Graham. The Cardinals do not let tight ends play. They haven't allowed a tight end to go over 78 receiving yards in the last 2 seasons. We've already said, that pretty much this game is going to come down to Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin. So Jimmy Graham, can't trust him. It's too risky in championship week to trust Jimmy Graham.
Jordan Reed also sat out practice today, although I'm not talking about that team for at least another week.
Right, those big helmets they've got on?
Not listening.
No, this is just.
Why did he punch them? I have no idea, because they're stupid. Yeah, but that him punching is the least. Kirk Coleman is the least of the issues. His hilarity of when Thomas Davis looked like he was going to flatten him is brilliant. But that's the least of the issues. We got beaten by a team that didn't care. It's not even possible. Like 3 wins and you're in the playoffs. Oh no, let's lay an egg on Monday Night Football. Again, we are effing 1-15 on the last 16 Monday Night Football games. What the F?
It's 1-16 and 17 actually.
It's just. Well, that also says that it's 1-15. But anyway, enough of that because I'll just get even more mad. Let's just talk everyone through our fancy teams of the week.
Mainz and Dutts, daily fantasy team of the week.
Show me the money.
Who's your quarterback, Dutton?
Quarterback. Usually, as I say, I pick my quarterback quite late on, but this week, again, I wanted to get a good stack and then see what I could do around it. So I've gone with Jameis Winston, 6,500. They're playing the New Orleans Saints.
I've gone for Dak Prescott. He's 5,900 and he's at home to Detroit in a game that Dallas need to win to get home field advantage, as I assume, because the Eagles are stupid. They'll beat New York tonight.
That would be an Eagles thing to do.
It's a thing that teams that are rubbish but like secretly want to try do, especially in division games.
It's how, I forget who it was they were playing it, missed out on O.J. Simpson way back in the day.
It's just ridiculous, right? Who's your running back 1, Dutton?
Running back 1, there will be mop-up duty aplenty in the second half, probably, and that is why I'm going with LeGarrette Blount, 5,600. The Patriots are playing the Jets.
What I'd like to say is my running back 1 last week was Devontae Freeman. I just want to say that because he scored a bajillion points. This week, in memory of the playoff run of the Washington semi-professional football team, I've gone for Jordan Howard, 6,300. The Bears will beat Washington this week. It's an absolute nailed-on certainty.
Losing a game quarterbacked by Matt Barkley.
Oh, he will throw for probably 300 yards and 2 scores. Who's your running back 2, Dutton?
Running back 2, the same game as Blunt, but the other side, someone who will be a lot more involved. He's certainly been involved in recent weeks. He should have had every running back snap last week, but instead they thought, we'll play out the garbage time with Matt Forte on one leg. Bilal Powell, 6,000. He's not going to run all over the Patriots, but PPR-wise, Bryce Petty on the checkdowns, Powell will get a lot of volume.
Dutton mentioned that the Bucks are playing the Saints and he's probably going to have lots of players in. I'm picking Doug Martin because I always do and eventually it'll work. He's 5,400 in the Superdome.
Yeah, to quote a line from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, he's 5,400 for a reason. He won't do anything.
Wide receiver 1, Dutton.
Wide receiver 1, the man who leads the league in targets over the last 5 weeks with 67, Julian Edelman. 6,900. Patriots beat the Jets.
I'm sensing a beat up on the Jets philosophy here, Neil.
I smell blood in the water.
Stop. They're already dead. Mentioned earlier by Mr. Dutton, in what can only be a shootout, I'm picking T.Y. Hilton, 7,800, playing at the Raiders.
I like
wide receiver 2, Dutton.
Stacked up with James Winston, Mike Evans. Although he hasn't scored a touchdown in his last 3 games, there's a good chance that ends this week. Although he's not had the best record against the Saints in the past, but he's 8,500.
That's a lot of money. My wide receiver 2 is Tyler Gabriel. He's questionable at the moment, but expected to play. He's 6,200 and he's playing the Panthers, and he will be wide receiver 1 as I expect him to hold out Julio once again. Wide receiver 3, Dutton.
Wide receiver 3, a man who has moved into the slot of late, which is good because it means he'll avoid Josh Norman. This week he's had 34 targets his last 4 games. Cameron Meredith, 4,700.
This is disgusting. That's 2 Chicago Bears players in a daily fantasy, and they've won twice or 3 times. It's just
3 times.
3 times they've won. Sorry. My wide receiver 3 is mentioned before. It's Doug Baldwin. Hoping he plays in the slot. He's 6,000 and he's playing the Arizona Cardinals. Tight end, Dutton.
3,500. Hunter Henry.
Nice. I've gone for following your stack concept. I've gone for Cameron Brate. He's 3,900. He's playing the Saints.
I love Cameron Brate.
Great name as well.
Went to was it Harvard? Really?
Did he? I actually don't know. Is that going to be a thing? Is it? Oh god.
I think that'll be a thing. Yeah. The same way that Antonio Gates was a tight end who played basketball, Cameron Brate will be a tight end who went to Harvard.
Fantastic. Who's your flex, Dutton?
Kyle Rudolph. The Packers are hurting a little bit of linebacker, and to be honest, Adam Thielen's head nearly came off last week. Stephon Diggs doesn't have a concussion; it's a hip issue. Oh, silly me! Of course, I forget how closely linked the hip and the head are. Sam Bradford has been his. If you looked at the stat lines for every game this season, just from Sam Bradford, you wouldn't be able to tell what their record is. He puts up the same performance every bloody week. So if he doesn't get going to Rudolph, he's got absolutely nothing. 4,900.
That's a nice first round draft pick you got yourselves there. The Dutton's doing a smiley face thumbs up, by the way, for those who aren't watching the video.
Yeah. Sleevey Wonder's doing us proud.
My flex is Travis Kelce. I'm hoping, for the love of God, Andy, give him the ball. You need to win the game. Do your job.
Travis Kelce has had more carries inside the 5-yard line than targets in the last 10 weeks.
I'm hoping that changes this week. Who's
Good
your
luck with
defence, Dutton?
Who do you think my defence is?
See, there's 2 ways of going about this, right? You've obviously gone for the Patriots against the Jets. You've gone for the... Okay, so have you gone for the San Diego Superchargers against the Browns? Because I have. Yeah. 3,400.
Again, isn't blood in the water. This is a carcass long since kicked.
Is Bosa back? Is Bosa going to
Who
play?
cares?
Because
Who cares?
if Bosa plays, they should rest Robert Griffin III because there's a high possibility he will not survive the game.
Let's be honest, if Bosa plays, they may as well cut Robert Griffin III and just say, do you know what, RG, we've seen enough.
It's just, oh no, it's not. It's where daily fantasy wins at life, really, compared to normal fantasy, is that you don't get the opportunity to bully rubbish teams enough in normal fantasy where you do a lot in daily.
Oh yeah, I think you look at the number of times we've picked a team playing against, a quarterback playing against the Browns, or the defense playing against the Browns, or the tight end playing against the Browns. But yeah, I haven't won any money. So.
Yeah, it's just fun. I like picking the defense. It's actually quite fun. When in normal fantasy, it's not. Okay, Dutton. Let's recap. Quarterback.
Jameis Winston.
Mine's Dak Prescott. Running back 1.
LeGarrette Blount.
I've got Jordan Howard. Running back 2.
Bilal Powell.
I've got Doug Martin. Wide receiver 1.
Julian Edelman.
I've got T.Y. Hilton. Wide receiver 2.
Mike Evans.
I've got Gabriel. Wide receiver 3.
Cameron Meredith.
I've got Doug Baldwin. Tight end.
Hunter Henry.
I've got Harvard's own Cameron Brate. Flex.
Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
I've got Travis Kelce. Please throw him to Big Red. You can do this. And the defense.
The Superchargers.
The Los Angeles Superchargers. Do you realise next year or in 2 years' time, I was watching that. I watched the full Chargers Raiders game, which was great, by the way. I love watching the Raiders and watching another way that the Chargers can lose. It's always fun. That next year that could be LA against Vegas.
Intriguing prospect.
That could be, instead of having San Diego v Oakland, that is high possibility could be LA at Vegas.
Sin City meets Sin City.
That's genius. I know some people are against it. I don't know why. It just sounds like an amazing idea. Although I'd assume that 90% of the time all the Raiders players would be drunk or skint.
Or making it rain.
Yeah. Woo! Dutton, yeah. Dutton just did the emoji of throwing dollar bills all over the floor. Dutton, it's Christmas time. So we'd like to wish all of our listeners a Merry Christmas. We will be back before the new year to talk about week 17. Don't tell our other halves, as they probably won't be very happy about it. I'm at Mainzy7. Neil is at ndutton13. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. Any last words, Dutton?
Yeah, best of luck to everyone playing in the championship game. To those who didn't, you suck.
I suck.
But if you have a commissioner who was sadistic enough to schedule the title game for next week, I'm not helping you. We will not be dishing out fancy advice next week. I'm not prepared to do it. Because there'll be that many teams in DGAF mode, I can't keep up with it. The force is strong with this one, but not that strong.
Fantastic one.
Blame the commissioner.
Fantastic. That's it. This has been Waxing Lyrical. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week.